Love that Witchblade. A bit better on ranged heroes, but easier to use, right? Especially on a puck who can jump in and out of these fights. Just way faster farming on the puck. Like, sure, you've got that laning matchup where if you have a +1 to come kill and gank, you know, phase shift is not going to save puck because you'll have the Aether when it's ready, granted. But even with your own draft, right, the Dazzle, not really that scary of a ganker to the mid lane, to be honest. He's great at responding to a gank if you're diving. He's great in that capacity, but we'd be looking for something like a rotation hero, or Shaker, for example, popped off at the major, right? Something like that to threaten the puck a bit more.
Yeah, I think both teams with their 4 positions, but particularly Talon, the way they like to play with Q, he still plays the Earth Spirit, for example. But Marcy's another, I think, go-to for every team, which has not so far been banned out. So I imagine both teams are going to be eyeing off some of these heroes, although Kataomi has a bit of a more unusual hero pool at times. I mean, 2 Sven picks, that's a completely out-of-the-box hero when it comes to the 4 position these days.
Yeah, it certainly is, especially because like you think about some of these heroes, and there's some notable exceptions like the TA, of course, of last game, and perhaps Alchemist, who does eventually become a little bit more physical damage based, but the Sven, which gives you a lot of AoE armor, especially with maybe like a Vlad's into the Wraith pack into Shard. It's like, it gives you basically, I think I looked it up, 65% damage resist from 0 armor, right, for physical, with the Shen build and with the active. It's incredible, right, against certain lineups. Right now, into the puck Bane, that's not looking super appealing, I might say. Pucks do a lot of physical damage these days, but still certainly with Kaya and potentially an E-Blade to dish out plenty of magic. So I do wonder where Talon are looking to go on that position 4 route. The Earth Spirit does seem mighty nice versus a Bane as well as a puck, I will say.
Yeah, I think that they're going to, particularly once you start 0-2, that's where you're often like, okay, guys, time to bring out the comfort heroes. We had a rough start. You know, you maybe come into day 1 with some ideas about new stuff you want to try or stuff that maybe worked in scrims, and then it doesn't work, and you're like, all right, back to basics. For Talon, I think Earth Spirit or Marcy makes a lot of sense for that 4 position.
Yep, the Marcy strikes me as another good hero here as well. Something to cancel the Bane. That's going to be the Fishman hero. He's always been a fan of the Bane. One of the earlier pioneers, ever since he kind of came back into meta at the very start of the DPC tours as we currently know them. Into Bristle then.
That's a very aggressive pick. Like, usually teams in this pick will like just pick a support because they're like, okay, we'll pick a support. It reveals nothing. We hide our draft and then we can respond to the enemy. Picking Bristle is like, you're kind of revealing a lot of your strat and forcing Talon now to kind of counterpick this Bristle with these picks. Because typically this is where Talon have like a tough job. They're like, okay, they pick some 4 position Marcy. Like, what do you pick into Marcy? It doesn't matter what you like. Marcy doesn't force you to pick anything, but now Talon actually have to address a problem that entity had picked up.
I see what you mean. For me, I'm not super great with my poker lingo, and I might alienate a couple of viewers, but it's like a little bit raising pre-flop. You're like, I have something that maybe you even want, right? Talon have potentially a hand they could have had here with the Dazzle Bristle. Instead, they're actually going to counter here, maybe a call, I would say, to continue the lingo, with like a DP, right? Fantastic hero throughout the entire game versus Bristle. The laning matchup's great. Once DP gets Shard, especially, it feels impossible for Bristle to stay on top of anyone in these fights. A really painful matchup for Bristle.
Yeah, and the DP plus Tusk, it's good for the lane, good for the mid game, and I think this is where I mentioned it feels like Talon are a bit limited with some of their strategies they're good at winning with. Death Prophet's one of their best. Like, after KP playing Brew, I think Death Prophet's the other hero that's worked really well for him. SCA as a region have been really sticking with offlane Death Prophet just as a hero concept that they really like. They brought it to the major. We even saw some other teams, I feel like, from other regions kind of picking up a bit like, okay, these SCA teams aren't doing too hot, but the Death Prophet's the one thing I think they have the right idea about. So it does, it doesn't give them the playmaker in the offlane, but it just gives them this hero to really play around and feel strong with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it has proven to be one of the better matchups into the Bristle. I think teams kind of toyed with something like Timbersaw at the major, didn't really feel that great, right, into Bristle. It's just one of those heroes where a lot of his hard counters, especially if you pick or ban the Viper, do feel a bit more difficult. As far as other bans here, of course, Talon not going to let that Enigma through on the last pick for Entity. Are going to be looking for a carry themselves.
Yeah, Talon have to pick their carry not knowing the matchup, which can be a bit tricky, but we've got a Dazzle here. And we've seen a lot of unusual heroes from 23 Savage himself. To me, it was like Pure and Entity who were first doing the carry Doom, but then in SEA, 23 Savage was playing some carry Doom. He played a carry Lena, so his hero pool is very diverse. And I think that's that's one of Talon's strength on this patch, because this is a patch where you can't get too greedy with your drafts, as we saw in the last series with Thunder Awaken. That game too was like all out greed, and you get run over if you go too greedy.
No, very true. Even game one, right? Something like a Weaver core who does have to go for 2 defensive items, in a way, feels a little greedy. You're just not going to get that much time in this meta. Speaking of time, Talon running out of it.
Yeah.
It's going to be the Razor then.
Okay. This seems like we don't. It's weird. It's like we're not there, but when you see a last pick Razor after using like 2 minutes to think about a pick, it's like you're expecting like something like cool and different, like they used all this time, and then it's just a Razor.
Yeah,
but
yeah, they were certainly thinking of cool things, I'm sure. But
yes,
they go back to old reliable Razor. And speaking of old reliable, there's going to be the Visage yet again for Entity.
So it will be offlane Visage. They often pick Visage early because they flex between the mid and the offlane, but with all of Toby's other heroes banned out, they're just like, yeah, great, we'll last pick this Visage. The kind of Death Ball Zoo that comes from like the Visage, plus, you've got a tanky Bristle, like that's something that's pretty hard for the Razor to fight into. It's a lot of physical damage, which is in many ways I think what Razor is weakest to, particularly physical damage with BKB Pierce. That's why a lot of teams like the Void against the Razor. It's not just that you can like time walk out of the static link. If anything, I think that's the least exciting part about the matchup. The best part is you've got this BKB piercing Chronosphere, which is what Bane brings to the table. So now you've got grip plus physical damage. Razor's going to play very carefully this game.
Yeah, he's got to tread very carefully. Entity, as you mentioned, they've got this, what feels like probably 2 item timing right on the Bristle, a starter item, and then Ags, and then hopefully Toby has got Wraith Pact, maybe at least the Vlad's up and operational, eventually into the AC, which is going to give you a second timing. I feel like you do really have 2 pretty crazy and early timings for Entity that they're going to look to be able to abuse. The Razor, as you're saying, might struggle a bit here. BKB is going to feel nice, and if you can get maybe on top of Bristle early in the fights, they can look to turn, but Entity has so much burst. I don't know. It's a nice draft by Entity, I will say. I think the Visage does give them the necessary push, the engagements, the scouting that they were kind of lacking in this fight. Draft. Pardon.
No, I agree with that. I think if you're Talon, what you're looking to do is have a very strong start. Visage is a hero that can be punished in the laning stage. I think my view on this hero is I think it kind of unrightfully got given this reputation of being this strong laner while over the last like 3 months or so. This hero, it's very hit or miss when it comes to the lanes. You're 1 base armor, you're very squishy. If anyone gets on top of you, like Visage doesn't like playing in the kill lanes. Visage wants to be the kill lane, but you don't really want to play against these lanes that kill you, and that's exactly what Dazzle Razor will do.
Very true. That's going to be many attempts at his life. There's the D ward. Entity will go right on back, as it's the support Zeus, right? So not the mid lane Zeus, which will go 404. This is support Zeus first point in Lightning Bolt. No big deal. So the only 2 wards that live are actually in the mid lane for now. Yeah, the only issue is actually there's no really great save in this lane either, to be honest. Sometimes if you can play with like a little bit of save or some repositioning into a Visage lane, that can always backfire. Toby, right, taking this first point in Soul Assumption. Yeah, he does. You're right. He doesn't want to play into these kill lanes. But again, much like a Viper, if you come at Visage, you best not miss. Otherwise, he fires back with Soul Assumption.
Yeah, the Zeus is not like the ideal lane partner for Visage, but it does give you a lot of... This is like the glass cannon lane. Zeus plus Visage. Like, they dish out a shit ton of damage, but they will also melt incredibly fast.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe him, the Skywrath Mage, also up there, his winged friends. Yeah, for sure.
There's a lane. Just get those 3 heroes in a trial lane. Let's see what happens.
It's either it's 50-50 chance, guys. Either it wins or it doesn't.
Yeah. So we'll see how 23 Savage does up here. He's going for an early Quelling Blade, which is a little bit unusual, I feel like, but Magic Wand makes a lot of sense. We'll see how he fares.
Yep. Double ranged matchup here into the Razor, which is, yes, going to easily incentivize the plasma field early. Katomi hit by that first poison attack, but with Toby nearby, it's going to stop Hyde from getting too many stacks on that thing. Very easy to underestimate that.
You gotta be careful. Like, you don't want to poke Toby and let him just keep throwing these soul assumptions. You really want to, like, dish out a lot of damage on him at once. They kind of messed up the start of the lane with they missed the range creep with plasma field. Didn't get the range. I mean, you can't get the range now against Zeus, but it just felt like they weren't quite synergizing their harass together a bit. But definitely a lane that they can still win on the Talons.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And again, like you're saying, you got to be careful because normally this Visage nuke is incredibly costly to cast. 125 mana is no joke. And there's even the second point now actually in Gravekeeper's Cloak, so a little bit of more survivability. But with the Ring of Bazzi that Katomi's carrying, he's going to have plenty of mana in this lane to spam out a couple of nukes. So something to be careful for certain for Talon. As bottom, you know, KP already going to work with the Crypt Swarm eventually with Spirit Siphon. He's going to be able to tank pretty nicely into this lane. Q as well with a lot of kill potential onto Fishman especially.
I was going to say, oh, well, there's some harass going down here. I just watched like 3 range creeps in a row to get denied up top, but oof. This has been brutal for Talon up top.
There's the point in Link now. At least that'll force Toby a bit out of lane. Toby, of course, just respond to the quick soul assumptions. Link level 1, not really much to write home about. You're going to need a pretty mean poison touch active to get that kill. Q does get slept bottom, but at least he didn't use the tag team quite yet. So he doesn't waste that at the very least. The Fisherman able to at least complete the pull here. He does block the hard camp as well, so wants to really make sure that this Bristle doesn't have to farm too far away from tower in case they Talon decide to make a go at him.
Yeah, and just getting the pull in itself is a big win for Fishman. He may go down here, which is definitely not what he wants, but without Spirit Siphon, yeah, there's no real kill threat here, and Fishman seems to know it because he's playing 1 versus 2, zoning them while pure farms on this Bristle. Really nicely done.
Yep, now he's got those level 2 quill sprays. And, you know, Bristle, of course, like many heroes, weakest at their early, but very relevant for these kind of lane dominators that end up bullying some enemy offlaners, as we might end up seeing here to KP. 11 wand charges, though, and eventually the second point in Spirit Siphon is going to give KP a little bit more room to maneuver, though, and he'll be easily getting that underneath tower here. Nice job by Q, giving him some solo XP.
Yeah, this lane definitely should pick up a bit for him, but they're looking to really get up close and personal. Getting some extra damage in under the tower, forcing KP just to use that Spirit Siphon charge kind of defensively.
Pure even CSing pretty far. It takes a tower shot there, and yeah, just hard to... Oh, wow, they're going to make KP actually farm under tower. Not something that the DP is going to really love doing. A Stormstormer does definitely avoid an 8th Remnant. Might not have been the death of him, but certainly does at least extend his life now in the mid lane.
Yeah, that was nice from Pure. He wanted to buy his Ring of Health anyway, so just dragging the wave as he did so was a little bit of play there.
Stormstormer. Oh, nice job. He just gets off the waning rift. They had the 8th Remnant set up in time for him, but he wasn't going to wait long there inside the phase shift.
This is, I think, classic Puck versus Void Spirit mid matchup. Often we talk about these mid matchups and the 6-minute rotations, but I feel like with some of these Puck and Spirit matchups, the rotations come earlier. It's 4 minutes. They want to deny water runes. They're not just worried about power runes. It's every small little advantage that you can give your mid laner in these like kill versus kill mid matchups makes such a big difference.
Yeah, very true. Especially when it comes to like skill points, getting that experience up, right? Makoto looking to try and farm as much as he can with Resonant Pulse, right? Versus a Puck, you do want to go for the 8th Remnant, so that does remove a little bit of farming, a bit of your farming tools anyway, I should say, compared to like going for Dissemblate. So yeah, it does make a big deal. That was Stormstormer who goes into Dire Jungle for the bounty rune. The Dazzle just a bit too slow on the rotation, but he's needed top. Because this lane, again, like we kind of started talking off with, isn't super easy.
No, I mean, you can see the Visage CS. This is where I've always felt like Visage is a weak laner. They go in Kanaomi here, but Heavenly Jump, he keeps the link on him. He needs that last right click, which he can't quite get.
Plenty of damage stolen here. 23 Savage, tanky enough with the infused Rand drops just being delivered. That's going to do nicely here against all the nukes they have for him.
Got the pulled Sal, but he's not going to get only gets the half regen from that one. So Razor's still a little bit low in this lane. Does have raindrop, so should be okay here.
Oh. Just a cheeky move there onto Toby, sapping a lot of the attack speed, a lot of move speed there. Is going to put an end to that one, though. Hyde basically full mana, though, so, might as well just continue to throw a bit of harass as 23 Savage continues to secure CS. And it'll be the early Falcon Blade for him, so definitely expecting to skirmish a bit earlier than he might otherwise be comfortable with. 3 heroes mid, though, for Entity as they look to contest the first power rune.
Yep, good old 6-minute runes. They want to make sure Stormstormer gets his, and the Talon supports, Hyde wanting to stick around to this top lane, really keep Toby down and away from XP. Toby's losing this lane, like he's 1 versus 2. Even in the 2 versus 2, the lane wasn't going great, but he just needs to get his level 6. If they can slow down his level 6, that's his catch-up mechanic. That's when he gets to just free farm the jungle, maybe even start pressuring the lane and going for kills.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of going for kills, ooh, the ice shards there on the pier, just swinging wide. Pier maybe thinking about turning, has the warpath stacks up, but will not go underneath the 2-on-1 tower.
Both mid and bottom lane, everyone getting theirs as far as farm goes. It's just going to come down to whether or not NT can make some of these good early moves with the puck. He's rotated top with the arcane rune, but I don't know if it was a dire ward, but they seem to know 23 Savage's position well.
I think it was going to be this dire ward that they have kind of near the enemy triangle. Still, though, they're going to make the jump all the same onto Hyde, who does utilize the shallow grave, but will still end up dropping 7 minutes for first blood. It's 23 Savage. No way you get off a link that long onto the puck. Especially with Arcane Rune, she is out of there before Q can really do much. Well, Katomi, remember,
snowball in though.
They did, and Puck's going to cancel the TP. They look to potentially turn. Katomi's dead. Toby's coming, though. That's a big old nuke courtesy of the Soul Assumption, and even Roche coming out to play here, as they will get enough damage in to kill 23 Savage. Mid lane, it's Makoto who dives versus Fishman, scouts him alone underneath the tower, but Fishman gets off the Brain Sap and the Nightmare to avoid a death here.
And the Razor dying there while using his TP, thinking he could escape, is just brutal. That's why the power runes are so valuable. They're not done. Stormstormer is still going this mid lane. He's got Coil back up with the Arcane Rune.
And Katomi continuing to fight as well. Stormstormer just a little bit low on the mana, though. Would love to continue pumping out spells. Katomi, though, is going to die for a second time around. There's going to be the magic wand, at least allowing him to jaunt over back underneath the tower. But it seems like that'll be the end of that one. More damage being dealt. Power rune secured this time for Makoto. You can tell how much Talon did not want this puck to get 2 power runes in a row, gods.
Yeah. Damage is kind of being done, though. Like, that just set Stormstormer up for such a good game. Getting the first blood gold up top, rotates back mid, still has mana to get more kills, has another Dream Coil. And all of that gave Toby the space and room to get his level 6, but also get a little bit of farm up top. The Razor dying, doesn't have a TP back to lane. It's kind of like the end of the lane stage, which means, this Visage suddenly actually has like a free lane and a jungle to farm now with his birds.
And speaking of jungle to farm, that's where we see Pure already. They've set up with a couple of defensive wards here. Doesn't really want to be laning versus the DP, who did use Exo to take the tier 1 tower, so he's really got no place in this lane any longer. He might decide to join a skirmish top lane here eventually. Looks like they might be setting up for something. I really like this D ward. Pretty standard stuff by Entity, but it just enables Stormstormer right now to rotate back into lane a second time. He might have been picked up again on this ward. I'm not quite sure. Either way, looks like Talon are surprised to see him here, as there's going to be a kill perhaps set up on the queue. There's going to be the self-grave. They're going to put him to sleep, though, to prevent... Oh, well, the snowball actually still goes through. Toby being ran down. In the meantime, Makoto as well joining the fight, picks up the kill. Katomi doing what he can here, but is set to be run down himself by the hasted Void Spirit. A couple more right clicks, dodges the Aether Remnant. Stormstormer and Toby now actually coming on over to reinforce. Makoto still might be in a bad spot now, especially with Toby giving vision, using the familiars. Does go right back into the lane. Stormstormer not expecting him there. Was 23 Savage at least picking up a kill onto the Bane in the meantime, but it looks like they're going to end up losing the Void Spirit here. 23 Savage make it 3 kills, picks off the Bane, buys enough time for Makoto to actually Astral Step out, but Stormstormer wants this kill, won't be able to get it because Hyde's back here and has the grave ready. All the while here, gods, KP is threatening for the mid tower while Fishman TP's on in. Didn't realize how many heroes there were here. That's an easy kill. Down he goes. Toby's back into lane as well, will at least force back the Death Prophet, so at least it's not going to be a tower in favor of Talon, but they look like they still want to fight.
Yeah. He dropped the birds too, could go on those. He's just going to charge at Toby too. The Exorcism's going to heal up KP if he gets low. This is great for Talon.
The birds, at least, familiars, keeping them at bay for a while. Puck somehow still has mana as well to play with. Coil as well at the ready. Right now, Bristleback in no position to be ready to join the fight. Wagon still doing damage. Talon fortify here. They really want this tier 1 tower. They need to open up the map so they can look to threaten the casual farm that Bristle's been getting.
Good damage from Talon, even if they don't get the tier 1 tower here. That was almost a full health tower that they get down to 20% health here just off of the Exorcism. It's a lot harder to kill these towers now with level 1 Exorcism, and KP with a great rotation. He'd already taken the bottom tier 1, so comes mid, almost brings down the tower, gets a kill in the Bane, and just guarantees that fight goes well. Makoto's Void Spirit staying alive for all that time too behind that top tier 1 tower made such a big difference.
It did, yeah, but just buys himself the time to get the spells back off cooldown and continue playing around 1-0-3. You know, this could be yet another series here, gods, where we see a Void Spirit kind of make all the space necessary early game. Not to, of course, discount, as you say, KP, who is making great moves, great rotations on the Death Prophet, now finds himself top lane, perhaps ready to defend against the tier 1 tower push. But Talon, they've got their sights set elsewhere with a couple of heroes idling mid and currently taking over the jungle that Bristle's farming in.
Love to definitely find a way to finish off this mid-tier 1 tower, but they may have to wait for Exorcism, which not sure how they're going to feel about using Exorcism when the tower's already so low. They'd probably rather try and take a team fight of some kind with it, particularly with how well set up their Void Spirit is. If they can get they've got the power rune in the Arcane.
Oh, yeah.
So they're the ones who want to try and take a fight now.
Could be pretty scary here as well. Fisherman is about to hit level 6, so he's about to become a pretty major threat, something that's going to have to be dealt with. Of course, they have double save here, right? Snowball save, which does pull you out of the grip, and of course the shallow grave, which isn't going to pull you out of grip, but at least make sure you're not going to die in it. Right now, Makoto just pressuring the tower. Toby, he knows there's somewhere nearby, and in fact, there is a snowball into the Walrus Punch. Silence onto Toby is good, but Fishman, again, TPing a little bit into trouble, might turn for the grip, did, and it got canceled immediately there. Makoto then free to run around. He's out of spells, but with the Arcane active, we'll have him back in just a jiffy. Oh, sorry, I heard Fiend's grip, but that was just a bugged sound. It got canceled immediately.
Yeah, I heard it too. In the top lane. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Exorcism use they were looking for. They didn't just want the tower. They really wanted to get a good team fight. It's a Visage, it's a core. You're slowing down these timings. We talk about how scary Entity are with a couple of items. And I think for Visage, it's also the levels. That level 2 birds, where the damage doubles on your familiars, is such a big power spike.
They're trying now. Oh, and with the Zeus ulti, they'll have the vision. The brain sap of Fishman proves to be enough. Q is going to be able to set up, at least for Fishman, on return. So it's something for 23 Savage, but pretty big kill there onto the Void Spirit, who up until now has been able to avoid death, while rushing Ag Scepter, by the way. Fairly impressive. No Sanj, no Kaya, no Witchblade bonus armor. Just pure skill.
Okay. Yeah, I quite like it. I think given how like Group Up and Deathball Entities draft looks, like the Ag Scepter will, it's good stats, but also just obviously the ability, the silence and the double charge is just going to give you a lot more just ability to run in against this big entity group up and fight you. So we'll see how he fares with it.
Definitely. I think that's going to be one of the many tools that Talon, they're gearing up for as they do prepare for this timing. They've done well to delay it, but, run from it, hide from it. Eventually, Bristleback will start AoE Viscous Nasal Gooing, and you better be ready. And yeah. Talon certainly are doing their best here, right? BKB soon, ready for 23 Savage, who is doing his best to pig pull his way towards Toby, but is interrupted there by the Familiars. Spirit Vessel finished now for KP, is getting towards that BKB. It's not quite going to be ready in time by Bristle Ags, but at least having the Ogre Axe does tank you up that much more. And of course, this Ag Scepter still a little bit further away, but a kill here onto Pure would certainly speed that up. And now as they've encircled and finished off Pure, that's going to be more gold for Makoto. Nice usage of the DD rune there.
Yeah, they knew Dazzle was there, but I don't think they expected the rotation and the collapse on a Pure. They're now going to make the jump into the jungle. They want more.
They are going to get maybe Fishman out from this, who does at least put himself on the line to ensure that the puck can easily escape at the cost of a Dream Coil. Fishman still pretty speedy, though. Eventually he's going to be caught up to. Not much he could really do about that. Silenced, so there's no Nightmare shenanigans, and he will die behind the enemy Tier 2 tower.
You know, take them on a little safari tour through the Dire base. Like, little trio of Talon heroes just following him and buy some time for other heroes to farm. But it's not really buying time, though. Like, Bristle's dead. Puck's getting some farm up top, but all in all, Talon are going to feel like these kills are a nice little confidence booster, given that they've got some strong item timings themselves coming up. The BKB on Razor being the main one, as well as this Aghanim Scepter on Void Spirit. Absolutely.
BKB on Razor, by the way, is done now. It's being fetched to 23 Savage on his courier as we speak. They might decide to wait for this Ag Scepter on Void Spirit, maybe. They know that Pure's Ag Scepter is going to be up any second, though, so they might kind of feel pressure to just go before the item's ready for Makoto. I mean, he's been doing such a great job so far. It'd be hard to blame him. Top lane, though, is where the TPs are at. Is Q under the coverage of the Fiend's Grip. Cannot get the kill. I believe that's thanks to the Nightmare Q as well. Tipping his hat towards Fishman, who ends up saving him. Trying to secure it with the Nightmare damage, but the rotations from Talon are going to stop that from happening.
Well, and if you're Talon, you're avoiding the moves that Entity's making. There is still this looming Bristleback threat. Here is just completing his Aghanim Scepter, so things starting to looking like we're going to hit both teams hit their item timings at the same time, which means some big fights could be brewing.
Do you hear that, Gods? It's the fan. I think we're about to hit it here. And then goes 23 Savage. Nope, Nightmared up before he could BKB. I'm not sure if he wants to use it, though. They do, though. They feel like the timing's right as they got the Vessel debuff onto Bristle. He is falling fast, and down he goes. KP with the kill credit there, utilizing that Exo level 2 for some good damage. Has scared away Toby. Fishman as well on the run. Will turn to Nightmare up and at least stop KP in his charge. That is going to be a big kill onto the Bristleback right as his Ag Scepter was delivered.
Yeah, KP just charging in head first, dishing out all the damage. Vessel plus level 2 Exo and some Spirit Siphons just melting through the Bristle there.
Radiant's top tower.
They really need an answer for KP, or they just need to disengage from these exorcisms. The problem is the Void Spirit's also just giving them extra lockdown and catch that makes it hard to disengage.
And now he's got the damage, right? Not to mention, of course, the utility that this double silence brings you. So he's going to even do more in these fights. There's going to be a BKB online, maybe even by the next exorcism here if KP really, puts his nose to the grindstone and just gets farming. For now, though, they seem to be contesting over Roche, where Fishman is in a bit of trouble here. Makoto is going to waste no time showing off his new Ag Scepter, but did use both Astral Steps to get here. Does put him in a bit of a pickle. No defensive items. Stormer now closing the gap. The Coil's going to catch 2. KP is full health thanks to all of the Spirit Siphons onto Pure, but Pure is not looking too bad himself, and there's the right-click damage from the Ag Scepter. Entity are going to strike back hard as they take down 3 heroes of Talon and go right into the Roche pit.
Yeah, just way too greedy from Talon there. Makoto using all his Astral Steps just to jump into Snap. It was an Arcane rune. That's a high-value rune. Like, it's not worth dying for. It's worth using your spells for, but between him and KP not having Exorcism, that was just a terrible fight to take, and they're getting picked apart. While Roche is happening, Fishman finds a grip kill on Tusk, so things go from bad to worse for Talon, who up until this point were the ones in control.
Oh, yeah. And again, just, it's this item timing, right? Where I've got my item, I want to use it, I want to stop this Roche from happening, maybe. Perhaps was the mentality, just making sure that, they could not move right into Roche. Unfortunately, just end up using a bit too much of the mobility early, as you say. And now Entity are in their stride, I have to say, right? Pure with BKB might become a little bit of a monster here, but Toby has that first item. It's the full and completed Wraith Pact, Witchblade, Blink Dagger now for Stormer, so he can easily dispatch or at least scare the Dazzle away from these fights and prevent a good Grave from coming. I suppose it's going to need to be some pickoffs, really, that Talon look to play for in this first Aegis timing.
Yeah, I'm not sure how easily they're going to be able to take any big team fights, particularly if Bristle's in the front lines and shielding off you from running at the rest of his teammates, because it's heroes like the Bane and the Zeus who are just going to sit back, throw spells, and you really need to jump these heroes. I mean, you can't let Bane get a Fiend's Grip, which is where the Axe, I think, comes in handy, because Razor is kind of the primary target that I think more than anything, Talon can and probably should just try to use this time to avoid fights and stall out the Aegis.
Yeah, I'd agree. Again, maybe pickoffs with the name of the game here. Q, though, is going to look for a pickoff on a Fishman, snowballing himself forward. 23 Savage doesn't have any mana for the Link. Has BKB, will use it. Didn't need a Link there for the kill. Gets it off onto Pure. Pure, though, with all the move speed he needs, is able to easily break the Link. So 23 Savage now BKB duration up. Is going to maybe look and turn. A big plasma field connects onto plenty of heroes, but it's Makoto, who has all of his spells, that's in a bit of trouble. Hyde is going to be left behind. He will perish underneath the tier 1 tower, but Toby continuing to have vision on Makoto. There's going to be some nice stuns continuing the CC. Stormstormer was ready for him, but he finds himself now silenced into the 8th of Remnant. It's going to be a quick little link from 23 Savage, but he's going to back himself up now as Pure, diving past tier 1s, past tier 2s, underneath tier 4s with his first Aegis to threaten for a kill onto 23 Savage. My goodness.
Word came out like, chill, it's only 21 minutes. We still have tier 2, a tier 1 mid tower that still needs to be claimed, but I mean, that's just a fight I don't think Talon should be taking. I mean, perhaps they don't quite realize they're fighting under Radiant Vision. That Cliff Ward in the dire jungle just gives Entity everything they need to know to take that fight. But it's just fighting into an Aegis like this. Bristleback can just run at anyone they want, and Puck's kind of unkillable as well. So very just impossible fight for Talon to even try and be taking.
For sure. And after they fortify for the tier 1 tower, Entity will refocus their efforts onto a tier 2 with the wagon, with, of course, Pure to tank it. That's as good as dead. There it goes. Not probably going to be quite looking to push up high ground, but this does cement their hold right now over this dire jungle. Of course, Talon, they've done the standard move, right? They've swapped jungles at this stage. They've even set up some vision as 23 Savage clears the mid wave. Maybe sensing something coming his way as well. He's going to back up into the hands of his teammates, where Stormstormer continuing to give chase, but without any vision here. Remember, this is not really Radiant's jungle at this stage. A risky move for Entity to be making, but Talon, they know something's up. Pucks don't just run at you like this if they're alone, but Q with the Blink Dagger now looking to turn Makoto to follow up with the Silence. Fishman is here with a Nightmare, but it's not going to be good enough. Stormstormer has overextended. That's likely going to be the death of Fishman, but it is KP who has been killed off in the meantime, as Pure and Toby will focus down onto him. That leaves Talon without a tool to deal with the Bristleback, so they'll have to leave, but at least happy with the kill into the puck.
Yeah, it's a pretty high priority value kill for them to be getting. They're getting this kill while Aegis is online too, so any successful fight or pickup you get that can stall out the Aegis timer is going to feel good on the Talon side. They're getting super close to this refresher on 23 Savage, so he's going to start to come online in a big way in these next couple of team fights. May run into some slight mana issues, but I think with the Falcon Blade, he should be all right. So I think these next fights, if this Aegis, once it expires, could start to look a whole lot better for Talon.
For sure. And I just really want to highlight Talon's read on the map there, right? Tier 2 top is taken, Outpost is taken, you clear the mid wave, you see a puck runner, you know what's coming there. I mean, that's just great deduction there by Talon, great game sense. They know what's coming, and they still manage to even get, a pretty nice pick onto it. KP, it does delay his BKB, but that's online momentarily, as even double warded here. So Entity might end up taking a fight underneath one Talon ward. This one's pretty sneaky. He doesn't block the camp, not in a super obvious spot. The jump is onto Q regardless, though, courtesy of the puck. This time Stormstormer's learned his lesson, not overextending, jaunts back, and it's Katomi who secures the kill with the Thunder God's Wrath.
So rotating in mid, this Aegis about to expire, but he's still got a BKB, so he's not really in too much danger being a frontliner at this point still.
This 23 Savage as well slowing him. Has Refresher, though, has now shown it to Pure. Is that, do you think, going to be enough to maybe cast some doubts onto Pure's readiness to fight into this? With BKB, Ag, Scepter, and Vanguard, can he take a fight into double BKB Razor?
I think it's tricky. There's just so much physical damage and minus armor. He hasn't got any armor items with this BKB Aghanim Scepter. He's only sitting on, 15 armor, which is, it's something, but it's... Razor will quickly turn that 15 armor into, minus 30 armor with double ulti, static links. So you need to find a way to break those static links, ideally, or get away from this Razor when he pops up Pure BKB.
Does halfway interrupt the smoke gank, but it's going to be Toby who buys himself time using the Gravekeeper's Cloak active. They've got a grip as well onto Makoto. He's just dead. 23 Savage can do nothing to stop it. Hyde as well slept, couldn't get off the grave. Stormstormer's back onto Hyde while 23 Savage is trying to deal with Toby, who is now out of Gravekeeper's Cloak stacks and is out of life. 23 Savage looking for the TP away, barely gets out. The DD on Pure. Oh my god, he could not have waited an extra second there or he would have been toast.
Yeah. I think one more right click may have sealed the deal, so he gets out, but that's a terrible fight for Talon. They just lost 3 so fast. There was the double BKB Eye of the Storm Razor cleaning up some supports in a way. I mean, the Visage kind of feels like at least a support in a lot of ways right now, but you don't feel good if you're 23 Savage there. Like, you've already lost the fight. Yeah, you can run in with your BKBs, get a kill or two, but you're losing complete map control. You're losing your mid and your offlaner in that fight, and it just feels like things are kind of slipping away. Yep. They need to find a fight under their own vision where they're the ones getting a better jump.
Yeah, that was underneath an entity ward at the end of the day. Just really great target priority by Pure, right? He breaks the smoke. He sees 2 enemy heroes on a map. He recognizes they don't need my help securing those 2 kills and immediately prevents more reinforcements from coming in. Not much more you could realistically do against Razor at this stage. It's double BKB at 26 minutes, right? But he does the next best thing, which is clean up backlines. Really well done.
So for Entity, we'll see where they take things from here. Next Roshan, sometime in the next 30 seconds to 3.5 minutes. That's going to be
Pure?
the focus for both teams in some ways.
Uh-oh. That never feels good when you're going on a... Oh, well, he's got the blink out. Nicely done.
Okay.
I was afraid he was going to proc some quills there, perhaps. But no, instead, it's actually going to be 23 Savage who procs the stun from the coil, forces the BKB and the Grave. Pure then immediately onto high, 2-shots him. He's got a Basher now, by the way. 23 Savage has got to get out of here. Makoto, not as lucky, finds himself bashed and killed off KP as well. Even with BKB, is not safe from Pure. Pure up to the high ground, needs one more right click, and will find it. 2 kills for him. They've dispatched as well of 23 Savage on the high ground, and there's going to be the full team wipe. Oh, all 5 alive for Entity. And they do it even before the Roche respawns. Tier 2 down, likely a lane, a barracks. Gods, what happened?
Entity cast some spells and heroes just disappeared. Or in the case of Bristleback, he right-clicks some heroes, but it's not like Entity had crazy vision there, but it's once again another fight where Talon are the ones getting jumped on. Razor gets jumped by a coil. He survives through it, gets his BKB off. The Grave was maybe unnecessary. I don't think he was actually going to die, but as a result, Dazzle Graves, he reveals his position. He doesn't have Grave. That's a free kill with the Bristleback 2-shotting him. It's just, for the most part, been positioning and vision where Entity are winning these fights.
Yeah, it was like you're saying, it was once he BKBs, once he Graves, they know he doesn't have Refresher yet. So he's just a very vulnerable target. It's all green lights ahead, Zeus ulti for vision, the Basher reveal. I mean, such a brutal fight. And oh my goodness, gods, when it goes that well, I think the worst part for Talon is that not only are they going to have to fight into this Bristle again, they know that the next item is only going to be like a fight away. And for now, it's Satanic for Pure.
Yeah. Basher just makes these fights feel so sad too because of how reliant they are on the Razor to kind of carry them through these team fights. But now you've got a way to kind of get some additional lockdown through BKB. No more cheeky BKB TP outs as well.
Nope.
We go 5-man spoke. They are worried about an early Roche respawn.
Pure though, he's actually completely alone here. Talon, they're not going to waste this opportunity. They're going to go right on in. BKB is ready, but the silences and the stuns perfect onto Pure. Down he goes, dead for 90 seconds, and God's Roche is up.
Yep. And they do steal the outpost, so it means if he buys back, they can TP Bristle to this outpost. They definitely don't want to use your buyback on your carry at this point. You're hoping you can just stall it out and keep Talon out of the pit.
There it is. They're going to make the jump now. The coil onto 2, but KP, who's got the exorcism back up in 15 seconds, he's TPing out. Talon don't want this fight. The bash, is it going to be there? Oh, it's the grip. There's the grip. Down he goes. Q as well to follow. Storm are now on a killing spree. But Pure did buy back for this, so, and only 1 core down. But Storm are hunting for more.
I want to fight this.
Hyde is now, he's going to be able to TP out. Okay, well done.
Yeah, Raze is just farming down in the bottom lane. They're willing to give this one up. So many teams there, I feel like, would just try to stall it out and not buy back their carry, but Entity just smelling blood in the water. I think, okay, this is our moment. We're going to win this fight. There's, they used everything to kill out Bristle once. It's not going to happen again, particularly if we fight around him. And now he's got an Aegis, so he can kind of alleviate that lack of buyback and almost certainly get another lane of racks.
For sure. Does also kind of put this Razor in a pickle, right? It feels like he really wants this AC online, more minus armor to amp his damage to try and cut through Pure, but he just has to save for buyback now. There's no other really alternative. I think it's a bit too risky for him and his team. KP, he does die there, but at least he doesn't use the XO. But my goodness, those wrecks did not last long at all, did they? Done already. Pure hitting tier 4 towers. There's going to be the drums. In they go now. Trying to end the game here. Pure, remember, has an Aegis, but no buyback. As Stormstormer with the coil catches Hyde. Good snowball save. Allows Hyde to at least get the self-grave off. He's going to make it back into the fountain to heal back up. Q, though, not as lucky. Taken down immediately by Pure as a result. Makoto doing what he can.
The base.
But he can barely move. And Toby is looking to try and end the game.
Yeah.
There's Drums of Endurance online as well. Still no AC, but Pure and Stormstorm are just making space now as Toby is going to put the birds now onto Makoto. Down he goes. Buyback number 1 out from Talon. Pure BK beat up. Still now is going to refocus onto the Ancient. Exposed less than half HP. It's falling fast. Talon struggling to get out of the base. Will not be able to leave the base as Entity will finish the game right here on this Aegis. They didn't want to go for the Megas. They busted the base wide open there. My goodness, what a finish.
The Puck and Bristle were firing. Toby's just right-clicking buildings. His hands are off the keyboard. He's like, my job's clear. I'm going to get these tier 4 towers while you guys have some fun.
Yeah, pretty epic stuff there from Entity. Pretty clear they went up there with a plan. Pierce says, guys, we can end this game right now. And I feel like they knew what they had to do, what had to be done there. Whew.
Yeah, definitely a game where I feel like Talon had their moments. I mean, they were well and truly in control until that one fight happened that gave Entity that first Roshan. That was where suddenly things just fell apart in a pretty sad way for them because they'd played the game so well up until that point. And when you're versing a draft with Visage Bristle, you lose one fight, that's Roshan. And Roshan means likely a lane of Rack. So you've got to play very clean Dota when you're up against Team Entity when they're playing one of these drafts.
Doesn't it? Just when a nightmare continues.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's structures are fortified.
Silence. I stalk no more.
To the deep with straight to the bottom with you.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower has fallen. Dire's bottom tower is under attack. Regeneration. Dire's bottom tower has fallen. Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Burns, doesn't
Dire's
it?
top tower is under attack.
Continues. The dusk is always ready for a fight.
Burns, doesn't it?
This'll work.
Roshan has fallen to the Radiant.
Let us fight.
Radiant's courier has been killed. Dire's top tower has fallen. Dire's top tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Burns, doesn't it?
Dire's top barracks are under attack. Dire's middle tower has fallen. Dire's middle barracks are under attack.
Burns, doesn't it?
Dire's middle barracks has fallen. Radiant's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower has fallen. Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower has fallen. Radiant's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's ancient is under attack. Radiant Worthy tribute.
Invisibility.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
That's the spirit!
No.
Your shrine has brought you to the dark. Dire's bottom tower is under attack. Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's middle tower is falling. Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant structures are fortified. Radiant's middle tower has fallen. Radiant's middle barracks are under attack. Radiant's middle barracks has fallen. Radiant's middle barracks has fallen. tower is under attack. Radiant's bottom tower has fallen. Radiant's bottom Radiant's bottom barracks. Radiant's bottom barracks has fallen. Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Dire victory. Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Dire team pick. Radiant team pick.
Chen.
Radiant team.
Alrighty, 10 seconds to bumper.
Bristleback.
Oh, here we go. Here's something from Talon.
Dire team
Hey.
ban.
Okay, we're on in 5,
10 seconds.
3,
remaining.
2, 1. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to ESL 1 Malaysia 2022, powered by Intel. I am Seek and Strike, and joining me is Gods for game number 2 between Talon and Entity. If you had to sum up the last game in just a hero and maybe 3 words, Gods, how would you do it? Doesn't have to be 3. That's kind of a hard prompt.
Remaining.
Bristleback, very scary.
Bristleback, indeed, very scary is how I would respond to that one. Very true. And I'm shaking, I'm quivering in my chair here, Gods, because there is yet again a scary hero here, this time for Talon.
Team ban.
Ooh, there is maybe a monster answer though in the form of the Viper. This is Talon saying, "Oh, you know, Bristles. We don't know how to beat a Bristle. Let's play it ourselves." But yeah, this was a different opener from Talon. Last time they did the IO with the Storm, but
10
seeing the
seconds
Chen, Bristle,
remaining.
you know, good against Chen. You want to group up with Chen with all your
5
creeps.
seconds
Bristle's like one of the perfect heroes to deal with that, especially since a lot of the Chen creeps are more about magic resist auras rather than boosting up physical damage mitigation. Bristle is very good against Chen.
Yeah, very true. I think the only thing that'll help you is going to be the Wild Wing Ripper with his little Arma aura, but it's only 3. I mean, which is something, but it's not your 15% AoE, you know, Centaur Conqueror. You know, it's nothing like that. So I completely agree with you. And yeah, just something that you brought up that Entity certainly kind of dealt with in their last draft when they picked the Bristle was they banned the Viper, right? And now Entity, of course, with 8th pick here in the draft, or 4th pick in this phase, that's their immediate go-to. I don't even think they used a second probably of reserve time when they were thinking of an answer to Bristle. How can Talon look to dodge this matchup? Like, what do they do about this? Is the Wisp strong enough of a laning partner to get through this Viper?
I want to say this lane is probably pretty rough regardless. I think you're likely going to see a pretty scary 4 position to go with the Viper, whether that's another range nuker that we sometimes see Kataomi play like the Zeus, or even someone to frontline for the Viper, which to me may be even better. The Sven he likes to play. I mean, talk about physical damage and needing to mitigate that. Sven sounds like a decent idea. So as far as making Bristle works, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is dodging the lane. Like, can you play Bristle offlane? It's not really a KP hero, but maybe it's something you consider, or you just kind of have to suck it up and focus more on
Team ban.
playing in the jungle and giving up the lane to the Viper.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a pretty decent solution, right? Because you do need to kind of enable Bristleback in that way to make sure if he's a carry, he can get to that second item. Whereas, you know, in the offlane, he's not going to have a great time come mid-game when he does try and run at enemies and he finds himself broken by a pool of spit. But the lane might still be very strong and something that Entity might not be prepared for. But it seems as if they are, right? They're starting to ban at least one offlaner there with the Enigma. So they might know something can be done here as far as lanings go and positions with the Bristleback.
Yeah. I think what I feel has been most successful against Viper is you don't try and beat the Viper in lane. This was something I remember it was at the major when Fly was on the panel. I think was really smart. Is like you're almost playing into the Viper's strength if you try and like counter Viper by picking the strongest lane possible to try and do well. Like that's the Viper's strength. Why play into the Viper's strength? Do something like just let the Viper win his lane and then prioritize and focus on the hero's weaknesses, which is, hey, your mid laner is a spirit or a puck. You get level 6, you get a power ring, you gank the Viper. This hero doesn't like being ganked. You play the jungle, you play the map. Viper's not very mobile. So there's basically ways you can play around the Viper's weaknesses rather than try and beat the hero in the lane.
That certainly could be something. With the IO showing, this very well could be a 4 Coddle. Is this a flex pick for Talon? Will they take this mid? Can they play this position 4?
They can play it. They can play it support. They can play it mid. I would almost maybe lean a bit towards mid lane Coddle.
As would I. I think he fulfills that condition you were talking about. Maybe if, you know, he's been nerfed a couple of times. If it's not a 6-minute BOTs like it used to be, it'll be 7 minutes, right? Coddle or Viper, either way, is not going to enjoy, you know, an Illuminate blinding light in his face that early.
Yeah, it's just you're super mobile. You're just flying around. You're hard to get on top of. A answer with a Sven. Not really an answer for the Coddle. This is just another. This Bristle's been given a pretty tough game. You're playing into Sven and Viper. I don't know. This is where I would consider like maybe demoting Bristle to an offlaner, or you need to pick up some kind of offlane laner that can like win you the game or like really have a huge impact. Because I just feel like this Bristle's going to be very limited in what he can do now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think we spoke during a break.